So let's start with the first chapter in this Geek Night. First, we are going to talk about in this chapter about the few of the things like app service plan and app service. So whenever it comes to app service, we always talk about two things. First is app service plan and app service. So these two things go hand in hand. So let's understand what these two things are and how these two things are interrelated. Then next we will be talking about how can we master the configurations on app services? How do we manage our configurations from Azure portal for the app services? Next, we are going to talk about mapping your own domain name. So how do you map your own domain name? So you have an existing website with its own domain name. So how can you map your own domain on the Azure on Azure app services? And in last, we are going to talk about how do we push our code to the app services, how do we do deployments, and how do we make use of deployment slots.
I believe, Surbhi, just a minute. We are not able to see your screen. It's showing as loading. Can you reshare your screen?
Sure, sure, yeah. You're able to see now?
Perfect.
Okay, so next we'll talk about app service plan and app service. As we have already discussed that app service is a fully managed PaaS platform, and how do app service plan comes into this picture. Let's talk about this. So app service plan is nothing but a container in which you deploy your application. So for an app service for your application to run, you need a container where you want to define your resources. When we talk about resources, it can be the size of your the application size of your container. It can be you want a 8 GB machine or do you want a 16 GB machine. So what size do you need for your application to run on? How many instances of your application you want to run with, and which OS you want to run with, and where which region you want to deploy your app service. So all these features, all these resources definition is defined by app service plan. So whenever you create a new app service plan, we need to define an app service plan first with these characteristics. We need to define the number of instances, size, OS, region, and resources like this. So based on your app service plan, your pricing is also decided. So app service plan decides how much you pay. Uh, there are multiple types of pricing tier which Azure provides for app services. So it can be a standard base, it can be a premium base. So there are multiple based on what you take. If you decide to go with standard or if you decide to go with premium. So based on that, it's decided how much you pay for the app services. Also, once you create an app service plan, so it's like you have procured some resources for your app services to run. So once you have one app service plan, we can run more than one application, one app services on the same app service plan. So more than one apps can be configured to run on the same computing resources which we have defined as part of Azure App Service Plan. So now we have understand app service plan. So once we have created the app service plan, app service is the place where you deploy your code and where you manage your configuration. So then next will be to create the app service. Once we get the app service, in app services we have support for multiple languages. And Azure App Service supports ASP.NET, it supports ASP.NET Core, PHP, Java, Ruby, Python, Node.js. So it supports multiple languages and multiple frameworks. App services also has support for Docker and containerization over Linux as well as Windows OS. So we can go with either Linux based or Windows based. So we have Azure App Service have support for both OS, Windows and Linux. And again, we can run multiple apps on the same app service plan with no extra cost. So we pay for App service plan, we do not pay for app services running on the app service plan. So once you have app service plan, if we are running two app services on that plan, extra app service will not cost you extra anything. So it will be simply adding an extra app service to the same existing app service plan. Now we'll go to the Azure portal and see how can we create this app service plan and app services. So first what we want to create is app service plan. While try to create a new app service plan, we have to select few options. Like first we need to select which resource to which we want to, where we want to create this app service plan. We can use either any existing resource group, or we can create a new one from the portal itself. Then we can give a unique name to the app service. We decide where we want to, which OS we want to use, Linux or Windows. Which region we want to deploy. It can be, so as your app service gives you, is available at many locations, ranging from US to Europe to India. So you can select any region where you want to deploy your app. You can select this East US region. And last, we need to select the pricing tier. So as we talked about, we have multiple pricing tiers available. So from standard to premium, based on which pricing tier you select, you get the features along with the price. So let's say if we go with P1 V2, we have this running with 3.5 GB RAM. We have it with 2 cores. This will cost 9650 INR per month. So based on what tier we select, it will be decided how much, what kind of resource you are going to get, and what will be you will be paying for it. So now we have selected the standard one and we'll create. So till the time this deployment is going on, we have one app service plan created. So this for this demo purpose. So we have this app service plan created. And in this app service plan, if we go to the overview section, we can see the resource group, which location it belongs to, subscription, app service plan name, and which OS it belongs to. So we can see an overview of this app service plan, and there are multiple features which we can see from here. So now we have this app service plan created. Now let's try to create a app service on the top of the app service plan. So to create the web app, again, the basic things, we need to select the resource group. We have to give a unique name to the app service. And then we have to select the what kind of stack we want to use and what kind of publish method we want to use. Do we want to go ahead with the code, or do we want to go ahead with the Docker container? So let's go ahead with the code for this example. And then we can select the stack. So as we told, we have many options available here. So let's go ahead with .NET Core. Again, we have to select, we can select the OS. It's going to be Linux based or Windows based. And then region. And then finally, we select the app service plan. So for an app service to run, we need app service plan. We'll select the one which we have created just now, app service plan. So which was the standard S1, which with 1 core and 1.75 GB memory. So we'll create this app service. Till the time this app service is getting created, we have this one app service created in advance. So once this app service is created, it's look like this. In the overview section, you can see the overview of this app service, which location it belongs to, what is the status of it. You can browse the app service from here. You can stop it. You can restart, delete, and get the publish profile, which gives you publish credentials for the app service and what app service plan it belongs to. So multiple things you can see from the app service itself. So in this app service, we have many things like we can go to the settings section. We can see the configurations from the Azure portal itself. If we move to the configuration section, we can manage our as app service configuration from the Azure portal itself. So if we move to the configuration section, we have 4 options here. We have application settings, we have general settings, default documents, path mapping. So we can manage the configurations for our application from this portal. We can create a new application setting. So basically, if in your application, if you want to add a feature toggle or you want to manage your connection string, that all can be done from the Azure portal itself. You can do an advanced and add a new setting, edit value. So it's as simple as doing it from the Azure portal. You don't have to go to the application and do these changes. We can manage it from the Azure portal itself. And if I move to the general settings, we can see the stack settings, like this application is .NET Core application. What is the platform, 32-bit or 64-bit? What is the HTTP version? What is FTP is allowed or not? So general setting related to your application can be managed from this place. You can enable the ARR affinity, or you can switch off that always on feature. So general settings about the application can be managed from this section here. Then we have few more things like default documents. So you can manage the default document for your application, the main default module page where your application will route to from this place. And also you can manage your virtual application and directories from the path map, this section. So by default, any application with the path for the application will be site/www root, physical path for this application. So if you don't want to map your own directory, and if you want to create a new directory, that can be done from here, from this virtual application section. Moving back to the slide. So far we have seen that how can we create app service plan and how can we create an app service. And next what we have also seen is how can we manage the configurations. So as we discussed, we can manage our configurations, feature flags, connection string, all from the Azure portal. So one tip on the top of it will be that whenever you add an application setting from the portal, it will override your settings from your web.config file or your app setting.json file. So if you have the same value configured in Azure portal and in your code, so the one used in portal will be taking the priority. So it will override the values in your code. So that this thing you have to take care whenever you try to add any setting from the Azure portal. So far we have seen how we can configure our app services. So next in the line for demo we have is how can we map our own domain names. So whenever we create an Azure app service, it comes with the default domain name with Azure websites.net, which Azure provides. But if you want to map your own domain, so that's like very much need of the today's world. So you will be having your own domain where your application might be running, and you're moving to Azure App Services. So you would like to map your own domain to the Azure App Services. So that is very much possible from an Azure App Service. You can map either a CNAME record or a record in your app services. Also, you can purchase the domain using Azure portal. So if you have an existing CNAME or a record, that also you can map from Azure App Service, or also you can purchase the domain from the Azure portal itself if you don't have that in advance. These custom domains are not supported on free tier. So if you have to use custom domain, you have to go with the minimum of standard tier. Now in this screenshot, if you can see that there's an option in settings in an app service called custom domains. If you select this, here you get an option to add the custom domain. So you can give the custom domain value. You can validate this domain. You need to mention what kind of record type it is, if it is CNAME or is it a record, what will be the verification ID for it, and you simply add the custom domain in last. So adding a custom domain in your app service is as simple as doing these bunch of configuration from the Azure portal. So once you have done this configuration, you will be able to route to your domain name configured and it will be mapped to your Azure app service. So it will be as simple as just doing few configurations from the Azure portal. So far what we have seen is how we have done the configurations. We have mapped our own domain, and last is like most important thing is how to push the code to Azure app service. So how do we push our codes? So before we see the view deployment option, we will be seeing the deployment slot feature of Azure app service. So Azure App Service gives you a feature of deployment slots. So what are deployment slots? The deployment slots are nothing but a live app with their own host name. So in today's world, we want to push our code as soon as we are done with the code, we want to push it to the production. But we also want to avoid any kind of downtime, and we want to roll back to the previous stage without our end user be impacted. So for that, to solve that problem, Azure has come up with this deployment slots. So consider you have this user, which is looking at the website production.website.com. So this is your website which is live and being used by the user. And then you can create a slot called staging. This deployment slot will be having its own hostname, staging.website.com, for example. And then what you need to do, as soon as you want to push the code, you push the code to this staging.website.com and you validate your changes to on this staging slot. Once your staging slot is validated and you are happy to promote these changes to production.website.com, you do a swap. As soon as you do a swap, your staging.website.com is pushed to production.website.com and your production.website.com is pushed to staging.website.com. And your end user will be looking at the promote with the latest code. So with this, we are achieving zero time deployment. We are able to push our code without impacting our end user. We will be able to do rollbacks very easily in case something goes wrong. With the production, we can simply swap back. We can simply swap again, and our old code will be available to the end user again. So we are able to achieve all this using production slots. We can add n number of slots in the same app service depending on what pricing tier you have selected. So if you have gone for P1, P2, let's allow you to add 10 slots. So based on your application requirement, you can add multiple slots in your application. Let's see how an slot looks like. So I have this app service. I can go navigate to the deployment slot option. I can add a slot from here. I need to give the slot name and I can do a simply clone the settings. So we can clone the settings from the existing production slot or any other slot which we have. So for the demo purpose, we have already created this staging slot. So if I select this, it is nothing but its own this live site in its own, and it's having its own host name as well. So this is how we can configure our deployment slots. Now let us see the few ways of deployments. How can we push our code to the app services? There are multiple ways using which we can push our codes. We will be talking about few of them. To start with, we have Visual Studio. So Visual Studio have this built-in integration with Azure. You can simply right-click on your web project and then do publish. And once you do publish, your code will, and you select the Azure App Service in which you want to deploy, and your code will be published to Visual Studio. So let's see this in action. How can we actually do this? So I have this one .NET Core application created. This is my .NET Core application. If I simply right click on the this publish, and here I can do a publish from here. So I can create a new publish file from here. When I create a new publish file, I can select Azure. Next, we need to select the what kind of app service it is, Windows, Linux, container. I have the Windows one. I'll select this Windows one. I need to select the subscription resource group. And in this, I have two app services created. I need to select in which app service I want to deploy. And also it gives you an option to if you want to deploy to a slot or if you directly want to deploy to your app service itself. So what we are going to do for the demo, we are going to deploy to a staging slot. So I have this one created publish profile. I will be which will deploy my code to the staging slot. So what we have here is, this is my staging slot. It looks like this. Welcome folks. So what I can do is, let's change it to welcome to Geek Night. We'll do some changes and we want to promote this code to the production. So there will be two steps to it. First, I will publish this to staging slot. So once I publish this code, it will be available on the staging website, and my the website which is being used by my end user, it is not at all impacted. So there will, if I simply refresh it, there will not be any impact on my website which is being used by the end user. So when this is getting deployed, it will take a few seconds for the website to come up, and once the website is up, we can simply do a swap. But meanwhile, this is getting deployed, my production slot is not at all impacted. So this is how we achieve the zero time deployments which we talk about. So once we are deploying, there will be a slight the delay, and now my staging slot is up with the latest changes. I have validated my changes on the staging slot. Now I can go to the portal and I can do a swap. I can go to the portal, I can do a swap. So when I do a swap, it tells me what is my source is going to be. My source is the staging slot. Target is the actual production slot. If there's any configuration change which is happening between source and target, it can be seen from here. And I do a swap. And once the swap is completed, my staging code will be pushed to the production slot, and my production slot will be pushed to the staging slot. And meanwhile, when the swap is also happening, my end user is unimpacted. There will not be any downtime. So the swap operation takes 2 or 3 minutes to complete, but there will not be any downtime for the production website. Meanwhile, the swap is happening. Let's look at the further deployment option which we have. So so far we have discussed about Visual Studio. How can we deploy from Visual Studio? Next in line we have is also FTP. So from Azure App Service, it gives you an option to download the publish profile, which comes with your FTP credentials. So with this publish profile, we can simply connect to this app service using any FTP client, and we can upload our files to this directory, site www root. And once we upload the files to this directory, it will be deployed. So that's again one way to deploy the code. Next in line which we have is Azure CLI. Azure CLI command line gives you an interface using which you can deploy to your Azure apps. So there will be few commands with which you can run from PowerShell. First, we can do a easy login. Then there will be easy web app command where you can. There are multiple ways that you can simply push the zip file to the Azure App Service. So using AZCLI also we can deploy to Azure App Service. Next also we have is MS Deploy. So far we have done many deployments on IaaS. On our on-prem server, we use MS Deploy to do the deployment on IaaS. But we can also use MS Deploy to do the deployments on Azure App Service as well. So in the MS Deploy command, we simply need to specify the target computer name and the credentials which we have downloaded from the published profile in Azure App Service. So using MS Deploy also, we can publish our code to Azure App Service. So these are the few ways which we have talked about. But apart from that, there are many other ways using which we can deploy to app services. Like there's an Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps deploy task is there. You can use that to if you're using Azure DevOps as a pipeline. Using that also you can deploy your code to Azure App Service. Also we have continuous deployment integrated with GitHub, with Bitbucket. So there are many things which are integrated with Azure App Service, using which you can do the continuous deployment as well. So this is how we deploy our code. So we have talked about multiple ways how can we deploy. I think by now the swap is completed. So now if I refresh my staging website and my production website, my if you see, this is the old code which we had, and this is the new code which we have. So we have successfully pushed our latest code to the end user without the end user being impacted. So this is the power of using deployment slots and managing deployments using deployment slot. So this gives a brief on how do we create an app service, how do we manage configurations, how do we manage our custom domain names, and how do we do the deployments. So that's the end of chapter 1. Now over to Rahul for the chapter, the exploration.